Okay, and things are looking good on my end. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Sunday night with the Xbox Roundtable podcast. With this being show number 228, I'm Invader, the host for tonight, and it's great to have you all here with us for the night. There's quite a few things that we'll be covering. Let's see. Well, first off, a tech company recently stated that we'll be getting upgrades to current gen consoles. We'll give our thoughts on that matter. As well, Kotaku put out a, well, not so favorable Game Pass article. We will certainly touch on that. And there are reports of Xbox turning down some big name exclusive deals. Interesting. We will go into depth on that and more in a few minutes, but first, let me introduce you to everybody on tonight's panel. Starting off with, you know what, we'll start off with GeneralMLD. Buddy, hey, how's the weekend been?
Hey, oh, doing pretty good. Yeah, just this and that. Gaming wise, alternating between Elden Ring and Sniper Elite 5. Always something fun to play over here. But yeah, well, I'm excited for this. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, no, hey man, I'm with you on that one. Let's have some fun indeed as everybody starts filing in here. Moving on to Centurion. Buddy, hey, happy long weekend to you. How you doing?
Doing great, man. It's Sunday night. Just had a great week of playing games and my God, too much work. But you're right. It is a long weekend. It's time to have some fun, talk about everything that's occurred since last Sunday, and talk about what we've been playing. What you've been playing. I've been stuck playing this crack of a game called Farming Together with my wife. Can't seem to stop playing it for whatever reason.
All right, all right. I've been.
I know you're like, oh God, really? I don't know how I got swept into this, man. I really don't. I do not know. It was just one of those things where my wife is like, hey, this looks good. And all of a sudden we've been building a farm together all week long.
Well, truthfully, I've been playing the past couple of days Halo Infinite. Been playing the multiplayer, getting some time on a few of the new maps, and yeah, I've been enjoying myself with the updates there. And honestly, I've just been going over to a couple of different games. I played a bit of the Spyro collection. Doom Eternal. I was playing the Doom Eternal DLC, and I finally beat what was it, the Ancient Gods DLC 1 and 2. Oh man, so good, so good. Doom Eternal just freaking rocks. I want more Doom. What can I say?
So last night I found myself going down memory lane and getting suited up in my javelin over on Anthem. And I was playing with my brother and his kid. We played for a few hours and I completely forgot exactly how. I'm sorry, but that game, even though falsely advertised, in my opinion, I had a lot of fun. Great game. Totally miss that adrenaline rush of getting in those suits and flying around and having the battles. And it's just one of those games when you play it, it just feels like very bitterly depressing that you're just like, man, this could have turned out as something great. And it just really sucks that it's something that was abandoned.
Mm-hmm. Like I played it afterwards when it came to Game Pass with EA, obviously, and my impressions of it are, you know, the same as yours. I really enjoyed like a lot of the stuff they introduced. The javelins are awesome. It's
Dude,
just
the campaign, the playing of the game, doing the whole thing, especially with friends. I don't care. The minute you get in friends involved, a dumpster fire can become fun. And I'm not even saying that Anthem was a dumpster fire. I'm just saying you could have the worst game in the world. Like look at Friday the 13th in them. Very underwhelming games, but the minute you got friends together, they turned out into be amazing experiences. And it's just really tragic that it followed the course it did during its development, and then what really shot it in the foot was there was no end of game content. It was the minute you beat the game, you just hit this wall, and it was a very very harsh wall to hit, and yeah, that pretty much crippled the game.
yeah, that turned out to be pretty unfortunate, but alas, hopefully BioWare's you know, learned from that and EA. But moving on down the list here, Crusader Bud. How are you been? How's the weekend been treating you?
Oh, I've been pretty good. Went paintballing this weekend. My entire body hurts. But gaming-wise, I have had a great week. I beat the entire Crisis trilogy. I played Destiny 2's new season, Season of the Haunted. Did the new dungeon in that, which is called Duality. The dungeon's fantastic. And I beat Killzone HD and Killzone 2, and I'm partway through Killzone 3.
All right, very nice. Yeah, I did remember seeing you post about that, about Killzone. Believe it or not, I have a very fond spot for Killzone for whatever reason. I don't know, I just always like the series.
Yeah, see, I've been complaining so much about the how bad PS Premium, like the offerings are getting. Like with all the stuff that's come out about how its performances and stuff, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm buying all the PS3 games used.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna play them all native.
Yeah, I'm tempted to do that as well. I've been buying a whole bunch of. I've been posting a lot about it recently. Well, in recent months, I've been buying a lot of original Xbox titles. Just picked up the what was it? The Nightmare Before Christmas, Oogie's Revenge on the original Xbox. I haven't played it. I heard a lot of good things, and apparently a lot of other people have either played it or missed it, or like, oh, I didn't know there was a Nightmare Before Christmas game, but it caught my eye. Thought I'd pick it up, and yeah, maybe one of these days I'll give it a go. Too bad it's not backwards compatible, but I'll give it a shot on my OG Xbox. But just out of curiosity, Crusader, what's your favorite Crisis game out of the trilogy?
A lot. 3. Absolutely 3.
Oh yeah.
It just played so well. Like everything felt fluid. It felt like everything that they were trying to do in 1 and 2, they mastered in 3. The story was all over the place and felt nonsensical, and I don't care. The gameplay was just absolutely great in 3.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with you completely. I just think for whatever reason I have a soft spot for the second one. I don't know why, but I just kind of like the way it
kept getting
progressed.
progressively better, and like the jump from 1 to 2 was fantastic. Like that alone was great. But yeah, those games are really good. I can't wait for the 4th one.
Yes, that's gonna be something. It will be. Moving on down here, Eric, buddy, Shock. How are you doing, man? I know you're kind of under the weather there, but have you been playing anything the past week?
Not a lot, just for stuff that's gone on. Like, well, I had to work most of the week, and then this was the start of my 3-day weekend, like Sunday through Tuesday. And I was like, cool, I'm gonna go see, Top Gun. I've been waiting for that movie for like years. And then, of course, like COVID, like this holiday weekend. I'm like, of course, cool. Everybody else gets to see it. I'm gonna have to stay home because I can't. It's not one of like those on-demand releases. So, just been messing around with my PS2, going back to some of those games. I was playing Shinobi recently, and then I found an easy way to kind of hack where you can adjust the aspect ratio to like 16:9, where it like proportion to actually like widens the view, so it's not like stretched, except for like I think the HUD pieces like that you might see like a map or something what might be slightly stretched, but the actual character models and stuff aren't. So that's pretty cool. So that way I can record some footage and actually get it to like fit the screen properly. But it looks really good with one of my retro TINK upscalers I've been using. But yeah, I haven't got back on my Xbox too much just from this past week with everything that's gone on. I was like, I'm gonna get back to it, but I was like, I'm just gonna move that to next week. So maybe this week I'll get back on the Xbox and stuff. What's about to drop. So, but yeah, I'm just trying to get over this COVID. Took me 2 years to get it, but it's not good.
Yeah, well, hey, it took a while, right? And well, you don't sound too bad, to be honest. So
yeah, at least by this point, I already have like 3 boosters, so that's probably why it's like somewhat mild. But yeah, I don't have the breathing because I guess it's supposed to be more like lung based, but like I have no issue with my like breathing or like anything like that. But just more of a head cold with a like slight fever. So
All right. Well, hey, man, I'm glad
not
to
the end
see
of the world.
that, you're taking it pretty well so far anyways, regardless of some symptoms, so that's good. And, oh yeah, I played a little bit of Sniper Elite 5. I just saw it in the chat. I played a little bit of that too, since it was free to download on, from Game Pass. So, it's alright so far. I'm still early on into it, but, it's fun. It's fun. If you played the other Sniper Elite games, then you pretty much know what to expect. So it doesn't really change very much. But yeah, guys, not sure if Timmy will be making it tonight. He may be stopping by, not sure. But before we start, guys, please hit the like button and share this out across Twitter and, and the like. YouTube's algorithms seem to favor that stuff. So please, be kind, and it would be very much appreciated on our behalf. Now, fellas, let's get into our first story of the evening, and it looks like we could be seeing updated consoles for this gen, well, a little sooner than we anticipated, maybe. During a press event, Chinese electronic company TCL stated that they expect a mid-gen refresh by 2024. It's really, that's pretty interesting on that front, that they're open about that already, kind of hinting at it. Crusader, why don't we kick things off with you here, because I know you have your ears to ground when it comes to like leaks and all that jazz. What do you make of the comments from TCL, considering that, they sell TVs, right? They sell a lot of TVs, and I'd assume they know something coming down the pipeline, right?
In my opinion, based on how they had that entire chart set up, that was an estimation. I don't think that they know anything in particular. It looked like they were estimating what was going to happen this generation versus what happened last generation. And my key reasoning in that is they didn't even specify, like, they specified tech specifications that literally don't exist right now. Specifically 8K at 120 FPS. We legitimately don't have any protocol in existence that can transfer that kind of data. With caps, HDMI 2.1A, which is the current highest HDMI standard, only goes to 8K 60 FPS when at a max bandwidth, which only some TVs can even do max bandwidth HDMI 2.1 speeds. So I think that this is them being a little overzealous in stating that without truly being 100% in depth into the into what's actually going to happen. I do believe that there's going to be a refresh this generation. I don't think and I think it probably would have happened in 2024 if it hadn't been for the chip shortages, because they're behind, like they're currently all behind on what they want to sell right now, and I don't see them pushing an upgraded console onto the market this soon. I could see a console from the Xbox side that's in between the Series S and the Series X. Either one that's halfway in between in power, or a diskless Series S. I mean, Series X, diskless Series X. God, Microsoft, the Y with the naming. But I haven't heard any credible leaks and rumors that there's going to be mid-gen refreshes anytime soon. I'm of the line that generations as we know them are going to kind of, I don't want to say go away, but they're going to become murkier because of the digital marketplaces. It's going to be kind of like a more iPhone or GPU like 20 series to 30 series style approach, where there might be stuff that you can only do on the newest one, but everything's just going to kind of move with you. It's stuff, if it can launch on old ones, will launch on old ones, but because we're in an era where digital is going to be king. So, I mean, would it shock me if they launched an upgraded model that soon? No, I don't see it happening in 2024.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to be fair, these consoles that we have now, they launched in 2020. we're not even, 2 full years into this generation. And obviously these companies, they are working on hardware all the time, right? To, get prepped for the next one. But it just seems like it is too soon for that from my perspective anyways. Plus, when you look at the chip shortages that they're having as of right now, or actually the past, year or so, um, you know, I would think that some materials would be hard to come by. And actually these consoles, like even the consoles that we have now, they're hard to come by as it is, correct? So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
the with the chip shortage, no one's really wanting to split their line. No one wants to split uh no one wants to split their production lines too much. Microsoft's doing it, but Microsoft's doing it in such a unique way where the Series S like it has so much less silicon that you can produce so many more of them than you can a Series X. So they are still getting as much, if not more, product onto market because they have the two lines. But like a pro version of the Series X or a pro version of the PS5 are going to use as much, if not more, uh, microprocessing material to create. So I don't see them wanting to split the line so soon until they're certain that they can meet demand of their current products. Would they have liked to have them out in 2024? Probably. It's not going to happen. I think that's the same reason why we haven't seen a revision to a meaningful revision to the Switch as well.
Yeah, that's right, because the Switch came out in 2017. Like I bought the Mario Odyssey edition, so that goes back, it's like 5-6 years old now. Yeah, that thing could definitely use a revision, considering like it's impossible to port some games over to it now from third-party developers. So yeah, that thing could use a major upgrade. Yeah, it's like I can't see personally like the a revision to the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series consoles anytime soon. Again, especially when it's hard to just get the current consoles as they are. Let's see. MLD pal, I mean, obviously you're listening into this. Like, what do you think about, again, this tech company talking about how I guess they're expecting refreshes by 2024? Do you agree with what Crusader is saying, that it seems unlikely that's coming, or do you have a separate opinion?
I mean, with all the supply shortages lately, on the surface it does seem a little odd. Like if someone like just recently got around to getting a PS5 or a Series X, only for there to be a mid-gen refresh just right around the corner, and that one's also like a little bit scarce. It's a little, it does sound weird if you say it like that, but I'm looking back. I mean, since like what, the 360 generation, we have always had like a refresh, like either like a slim model. I think that's all but guaranteed, or at the very least, I think a console that's at least faster, maybe more, maybe better frame rate, more consistent frame rates and resolution. So I think we'll get something down the line. But again, like because of the world situation, I just don't think it's as necessary. But I feel like both Sony and Microsoft, they're each thinking, if we don't do it and the other one does, like it looks bad for us. I mean, that's how I see it. Each one doesn't want to be caught with their pants down, so to speak. So each one's going to kind of release something, I think, as a mid-gen refresh in a couple of years, just to keep the spotlight on them, just so the core gamers can stay on their, in their lane. Because yeah, I mean, the majority of the games released are still third party, and it's all about like being the best place to play these third-party games. So it's always a constant competition of each brand to one up each other on that front. So I do think it's possible and very likely, given our history of past generations. I don't think I would buy. I wouldn't be a day one buyer of it unless it's really compelling. But yeah, for better or for worse, as awkward as it may seem, given how scarce they are right now, I do see them doing it. Yeah.
Like, I'll have to agree with you on that, MLD, because I've only had this console for what 2 years now, if that. And we've seen game after game getting delayed, obviously because of the worldwide situation, how it's been over the past few years, and that's understandable. But I can't see myself putting investing in another console in like the next year or so, when I don't feel like I've really taken advantage, or they've taken advantage of the hardware as it is right now. So, but again, that's me. Um, Eric Pell, I mean, what do you think about this? Could we be seeing a mid-gen or a refresh based on this company's comments, or do you think it's further out?
Yeah, I think it's definitely further out, like at least 2025 or 26 or something thereafter, because like we're not, like others have pointed out, you can't even go in and see these consoles on the shelves. Like I go into when I just took my PC into Best Buy to get it worked on. There's nothing, like there's no stock in the actual stores. So it's like still hard to get a lot of these consoles. So for me, it just wouldn't really make, hey, we're gonna release a Pro, and you can't even get the other one. But maybe like it just doesn't make any sense, especially with the chip shortage and how much of an issue they're having with the silicon to produce enough. Because you're seeing that where the first in like, I don't know, since, did they say the first time ever or first time since like 2010 or something like that, where Xbox outsold the PlayStation in Japan, which
Oh,
it
right.
wasn't like a great number, but it just shows you how like low the stock was for the PS5, like for that week. So it's just like they're having an issue there. Otherwise, because the demand's super high, because people are like, don't worry about the sales. The demand for PS5 is still way higher than Xbox. I'm like, well, but the issue is if you can't get them out in people's hands, it doesn't really make a difference. You should it should be like 2-to-1 right now, like probably with the demand and how you don't need a Xbox console, for their games. Period. You could just play on the PC, whereas with PS5's games, you do need a console unless you want to wait out a few years for the PC version. So for that, they should be probably blowing the Xbox out of the water in that sense, but it's not that far off, and Xbox has had literally no, unfortunately, almost next to no games since 2020. They've had, basically Forza and Halo Infinite. And Sony, to their credit, has had quite a bit. So they should be destroying them. And yeah, they're up like 4 or 5 million, but it's not near the 2-to-1 like it used to be. So, and it probably would be if they could keep up with the stock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, it would certainly be, we'd be seeing a lot larger spreads in the numbers for sure. It's just interesting how, yeah, I mean, actually, that's interesting that you bring up the sales too in Japan, because you're right, Eric. I mean, it wasn't even that much. I mean, Xbox did beat them at this, but it was technically the Series S, right? The Series S was the big seller, if I'm not mistaken.
And people were right to point out, like, those weren't good sales like the Xbox had. It was better than what Xbox had, but they weren't good. But it just shows you how much lower the PlayStation stock for that week. I think they bounced back the week after, but we've seen that like in the recent like Europe charts, and so for them not to be able to even in any capacity here, we're almost 2 years since the console's launched, and we're not, like, it's not any better. So it's like, I don't know when this is ending, as far as like when you're going to be able to like see stock in the stores where they're actually be able to, because that's their issue, is producing these devices that take up so much more silicon, and it takes so much more to produce. So for I don't think this is gonna hit in by 2023. So, or when 2023 rolls around here in 6 months. So like, what are we looking at? Like 2 years after that, and they're gonna drop one? Who knows? We're probably gonna be like a year from now, and it's still the same issue. Like, you still can't find them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be well, in my personal opinion, it's gonna be a little while before we see a refresh. But again, maybe someone else might have a different take. Centurion Pal, I mean, I would love to know what your thoughts are on this. Obviously, it's interesting seeing a large like TV seller, TV maker making these comments. I mean, it could be that they're over anticipating the mid-gen refreshes, but I mean, they would also be in the know, I would think, about some things. What's your take on this?
Well, when this first came out, I shrugged at it because I understand TCL makes one of the best f- on a budget 4K panels out there. Especially if you can't get one of the upper name brand ones. TLC really does have its act together on producing a quality product. But I did shrug it off. Because I mean it's still TCL. I'm not trying to be rude. But I'm glad that TCL knows what's going on in Sony and Xbox's house. The reason why I say this is because for starters, everybody is gonna potentially say something just to get attention on them. But I also like what in Crusader said, and he kind of took the words out of my mouth. When it first came out, it felt like an estimate, more like hey, this is the way it's been. But the only problem is every single company cannot seem to wrap their minds around the fact that COVID happened and it is totally screwed all the timetables. That is why we see game delays from Starfield, Redfall. It's why it's questionable on whether we're going to see God of War Ragnarok. Do I want it delayed? No. But right now, with the way things are, delays could happen at any moment. And for some reason, these companies can't seem to get out of their way because it's like, oh my God, well, it was like this. Well, back before. Guess what? This is the new norm. COVID happened. Sorry it did, but this is the way things operate now, and things are actually going to slow down, and there is going to be delays, and I don't think TCL can plan for that. And yeah, as I think Shockley said it, we're probably going to see these mid-gen refreshes probably like 2025, 2026. We're not going to see it 2023, 2024. Are you kidding? But somebody did throw a little bit of a tidbit of like knowledge my way. I wouldn't even say knowledge. It was more like fruit for thought, because boy, did my mind wrap around this. What if PlayStation deliberately halted the production of the PS5 because they realized that they're not really great at designing hardware? That is something that has been a big problem for them in the past, because they have always been just buy it off the shelf. They've never really tried to do custom things. And we've seen on how big the heat sink is in the PS5. We've heard how much silicon is used in the PS5. We all know that the PS5 actually honestly could use a redesign. Let's not deny that. And somebody threw some food for thought at me saying, what if they deliberately halted the production of the PS5? Obviously, they know that they're creating delays, but they also know that in the redesign, they have a chance to actually make the materials that they have at least at their disposal right now go further. They've seen this happen with Xbox on how they've slowed down on the production of the Series X and went for that big old golden brass ring in the sky with the Series S, and were able to make more consoles because it required less materials. And what if Sony has been paying attention to that? And what if they want to come out with two versions of the console, something that consumes a lot of silicon that basically comes out very rarely like a unicorn, and then they have that other console that they're able to punch out unit after unit after unit because of the redesign? And that I could not refute that this potentially could be in the cards, at least for PlayStation, because yeah, I'm going to be one of those that come out and admit it. The PS5 is in need of a redesign.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the console itself, but but yeah, design-wise, it could certainly be better.
It needs to be in a smaller package. It needs to have a much more optimized cooling system. Probably something with a proper vapor chamber, not something simulating a vapor chamber. There needs to be a better heat sink distributed onto the board with more contacts on the board. There is a lot of things that could really go into the PS5 that are very apparent just from watching channels like Gamers Nexus when he was probing the PS5s, both the original launch editions and the redesign.
Hmm. Yeah, again, it's just kind of puzzling. The thing looks like a giant alien surfboard to me, so I mean, that's why I just kind of like the way that the Xbox Series, well, I mean, both series consoles look pretty good, but the Series X, I mean, it's designed it's very simply designed, but it's more compact, and it has that huge chamber, that vent that just goes up. So I just think that it was better planned personally, but then again, I'm not a hardware guy, but I think a lot of people would agree with me on that one.
You could see how good the hardware team is over at Xbox, Microsoft, and it has nothing to do with the fact that David Preen's a great guy, but it shows through ingenuity, like in the Series X and splitting the motherboard, something that had never been done in a game console. It's stuff like that that really sets the bar, at least for hardware development, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, we should have David on sometime. Again, he's always good to chat with. You know, very knowledgeable, and you know, we just always learn something when he's on the show. I'll see if I can hit him up. But yeah, guys, honestly, with these whole mid-gen refresh talks, I honestly think that it's a little too early to say right now. I know I'm playing it safe by saying that, but really, you know, again, with as we were talking about the supply constraints and just being able to find these consoles how they are now, it's kind of difficult resource-wise, and they're just kind of untapped as they are anyways. So I don't think we'll be seeing them anytime soon, personally. But still interesting to hear that we got tidbits of from other companies, you know, what they're anticipating anyways. Well, always interesting that way. Guys, you know, guys in the chat, everybody listening, if you are enjoying what we're talking about so far, then please hit the like button and share this out. Let everybody know that we have gone live. Let everybody join in. Get the word out there, all right? And of course, it's great to see you all here. Other Zinc, always great to see you, pal. Patman Jones, Mike from Next Level Gaming, General Spartan, and so on. Always great to see you here, fellas. Now, guys, why don't we move on to some other things? And earlier this week, everyone's favorite gaming outlet, Kotaku, put out an article on Xbox Game Pass titled Xbox Game Pass Burnout is Here. Ooh, that's interesting. Claiming that there's a trend on Twitter with people being fed up with the service and that they're unsubscribing. Well, Xbox chimed in on their article stating, you know, tell me you limit yourself to only AAA games without telling me you limit yourself to only AAA games. Yeah, it did not go that well for Kotaku, to say the least. There was quite the ratio. You guys should take a look at it. It's getting pretty bad at this point. Centurion buddy, I'll hit you up here. I'm sure you've been made aware of Kotaku's article. I'm sure you've seen it. The responses to it and so on. Like, do you think that they make valid points at all, or is this just meant to be more clickbaity?
Oh, this is straight up clickbait. Let's get that out of the way. And by the way, they weren't the only ones getting ratioed. In Exile joined Xbox on this whole little like targeted like basically cutting of the knees of some people on Twitter. The Kotaku one was the one that kicked it all off with that thing. You know, after years of hype, Game Pass burnout is here. Oh man, you know damn well when somebody stroked that keystroke to get that thing on the internet, they did that with a smile on their face because they knew exactly what that article was going to do. And boy, did it light the internet on fire. But it was definitely killer on how Microsoft responded. And that's where, no, Game Pass burnout is at least not there for me. Whoop-de-doo, 2 games got canceled. Let's really look at this from a numbers perspective. Unless you're going out and getting deals on the internet and doing all this other stuff that I know is possible, let's talk about the average person that works too damn much like me. And literally, if I was to stop paying Game Pass Ultimate right now and go down to a gold subscription, I'm going to pay $9 a month to play online. And for $6 more, I can have access to games. Are you kidding? Like, to me, the math kind of just doesn't make sense in canceling the subscription or feeling burned out. There's always something there. My life doesn't revolve around exclusive titles. Yeah, I know they're like flagpoles and they kind of help establish the brand, but also at the same time, there's other offerings in there. We've played other great games, Invader, help me with this. The one with the dwarves that mine.
Oh, Deep Rock Galactic.
Deep Rock Galactic.
Deep Rock Galactic, great game. Obviously, in game preview, went into Game Pass. A lot of people tried it out, enjoyed it. Not an exclusive game, but it's also multiplayer. It's over on PlayStation. But guess what? I got to play it in Game Pass, and I had an absolute blast. Right now, we've got something that's targeted in Game Pass that people aren't picking up on. We've got Jurassic Park Evolution 2. Yeah, not everybody's cup of tea, but let's look at the fact that here in the next couple days, couple weeks, week and a half, 2 weeks, we've got the new Jurassic Park movie coming out. So now Game Pass is becoming relevant. It's keeping up with things in the theaters. There's a lot more to Game Pass than just exclusives, and I really loved how Microsoft tackled that with Kotaku, and obviously Kotaku got ratioed on that, but then other people tried joining in, and In Exile Games decided to come to Microsoft's aid, and some guy on the internet decided to say, how does it feel to make Game Pass fodder for the rest of your existence because you got bought out by Microsoft? And In Exile comes back with I forget, it was like something like job stability, creative freedom, peace of mind, stress-free work environment, highly recommend it. You know, it was basically something of saying greatest job in the world, highly recommend it. And it was just some of these responses from Microsoft this week. Somebody definitely ate their Wheaties before they went and decided to piss in someone else's.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, you summed it up pretty well, to be honest. And like Kotaku, I'll admit, I never go to Kotaku anymore. I they have very their articles just are very out of left field, to say the least. I don't know. I can't take them seriously. It's when
I thought things would get better when they got rid of Jason, but apparently Jason at least was one. Now that's all they have left is clickbait.
He at least wrote decent stories that were researched, you know?
I know,
They
right?
had horrible titles, but I remember the Bungie expose back in the day with what the fuck went wrong with Bungie, Destiny 1. You remember that?
Yeah, the whole Activision
that huge
thing.
article he wrote? So God.
Well, it's weird. I mean, at least, and he was one of the better writers there, which says a lot. But it's such a weird take too, because I think a lot of people going into Game Pass, they know that they're not just getting Xbox exclusive titles. I mean, you can't just fill it with exclusives. Obviously, that's why they court indie developers, third party, and so on. And I could, it doesn't take a lot of effort, right? I just did a simple search, because I forget what's on the service half the time, to be honest, but I download all kinds of things. And there's a lot of things that, or genres that I may not be interested in, but a lot of other people are. For example, Stardew Valley is on there, a farming sim. That's very popular. The Outer Wilds, a sci-fi adventure game, a very popular game as well. Among Us, one of those social experiment games, popular title. I mean, I could go on and on. The Artful Escape, I really enjoyed that. I know, some people didn't like, this. It's a more of a music space opera kind of game, but I really dug it, to be honest with you. And I was glad that it came to the platform. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of nice. And again, guys, I could go on and on.
Don't forget your Sniper Elite 5.
Hollow Knight.
Hollow Knight, yeah, guys, there's and like you just mentioned, Centurion, Sniper Elite 5. I'll admit I'm still early on. I just tried it out the other day. I got to put some more time into it, but yeah, I mean, obviously, that it was pretty exciting to me that game came onto the service. So when I see these kinds of articles pop up, it just kind of makes me scratch my head at, well, why are you guys writing this? Because they even admit too that it basically the article was written because they were going by Twitter trends, which, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that doesn't really mean much, to be honest.
When you write an article based on trends, and you know, Invader, I've written articles, I've done it for fun. I have not been paid for it, but I've at least gotten insight on how it works. I've gotten to at least write articles on WordPress using Yoast. Yoast is a built-in like reader for your articles, and it basically helps you write your articles for an algorithm. And you got to meet like a certain form. You got to put a keyword in there so many times. It's like literally grading you as you work. And when you're trying to write because of what's going on in social media, at this point, you're not writing to be creative. You're basically writing like just something to appease an algorithm to basically funnel people to your site.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just, I don't even know what to say at this point. I'm just, you know, some gaming outlets, they don't even act like gaming outlets anymore. It's just been kind of a slow demise. MLD, buddy, I mean, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, because I'm pretty sure you saw Kotaku's article and, you know, the social media going on about that. Please give me your thoughts on this whole mess.
Oh, yes. Do I have thoughts on this? Well, first off, it's just a damn shame, because I used to frequent Kotaku every day almost in the 360 period. Like, they had some really good writing, some good articles, good news, and to see them devolve into like this kind of like clickbaity, like it's like tabloid magazines for celebrities. Like that's just like that kind of like that kind of writing, you know? But I think it's emotional, it's reactionary, it's clickbait, because Game Pass was the exact same service this week recently, regardless if Starfield was coming or not. The service like today was not going to be any different, which is why they're just capitalizing on these knee-jerk reactions for delays that are, let's be honest here, these delays that were out of Xbox's control. These games were in development before Xbox got Bethesda. So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, in the end, the delays will ensure the quality that we want. We all want the games to be great. But ultimately, these games were in development beforehand, and if they need the time, so be it. Now that does leave an empty slot in the holiday period. We'll see what the June showcase has to say about that. So I'll reserve judgment for that until after the June showcase. But Game Pass is much, much more than that. For Kotaku to assume that Game Pass is only meant to be subscribed for first-party AAA games is ridiculous. Sure, do we like these games? Of course we do. But that's not like... That's not the main thing. I mean, like, for example, off the top of my head, this year, I played, like, Stardew Valley. I put, like, 3 days worth into that game. And that was, like, one of those Game Pass surprises. Oh, yeah, I really went to town on that game. And it was one of those things where it's like, I didn't expect to play it, but you end up playing it because it was on Game Pass, and you just fall in love with it. Like GTA San Andreas, I played Contrast, The Gunk, Tunic. I'm playing Sniper Elite 5 right now. Like, they completely disregarded the third-party value from this. Like, not just the indies. I'm talking, like, third-party games. Like Sniper Elite 5, I just said that. Plague Tale 2, Atomic Heart, that's this year. Deathloop when it comes to Xbox. I mean, these games also add up. As long as you meet the $180 a year quota, like value quota, like the price for that, you are saving money. You are getting bang for your buck. And to only limit yourself to first-party games to meet that $180 yearly quota, like that to me, just you're not using the full service. You gotta look at everything. Oh man, I totally forgot. Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I put 100 hours into that game, essentially paying $15 for the month to have 100 hours worth of gameplay. Like, you cannot limit yourself to just AAA first party. Is it important? Of course it is. But there's just so much more. These guys, Game Pass adds 12 games, like like 20 games overall per month on average, give or take, per month. And people expect every game to appeal to you. Does every game appeal to me every month? Of course not. I'm lucky if one game appeals to me every month for Game Pass, maybe two, but 12 months in the year, that adds up. That equals to a lot of games every year. They're basically throwing so many genres, so many types of like indie games, AA, AAA games. They're not meant to appeal to everybody all at once. They're meant to appeal to the individual tastes. And even if you only like a fraction of what Game Pass offers every year, you are saving potentially hundreds of dollars per year on third-party games alone. Never mind the first party, which is insane that Xbox is they're the only ones that are doing day one on the service. So we are very lucky that they are doing that, and when they do drop, we are going to benefit so much from that value. So I think Kotaku, they could not be more wrong in that article. There is just so much more to Game Pass than the first party stuff. And the Game Pass Twitter account, when they fired back, they had every right to do so. That was slander, and they have every right to give as good as they got. So I'm glad that they did that, and they started a whole conversation, get people talking. So yeah, I'm glad Xbox didn't let that little tweet article stand. I'm glad Kotaku got what was coming to them. So yeah, that's how I feel.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just find it very peculiar too because again, MLD, it was based off of what was trending on Twitter, and a lot of Xbox fans were like even including the hashtag because there was a lot of sarcastic comments. You know, like a lot of Xbox fans were just joining in on it, but they weren't serious. And you know, just being more tongue-in-cheek about things, and it was just kind of weird that Kotaku would latch onto, you know, the whole Twitter trend thing and just kind of run with it because, well, it just didn't seem like anybody was very, you know, just very serious about it. It was just a very odd thing altogether, especially when you see that Xbox Game Pass, it's growing. Game Pass, for example, what was it? Last year there was 18 million subscribers, and I think to date it was reported 25 million in January. Correct.
Yeah, with the Activision Blizzard, they announced it alongside that.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay, maybe a few people might unsubscribe, and, you know, that's fair. I mean, you know, depending on what your situation is, okay, maybe it doesn't work for you, and I can understand that, no problem. But the numbers are pretty clear that the service is very healthy, doing very well, and Microsoft has been aggressive getting, again, quality indies in there, obviously their own titles, and getting some more of their back catalog in there, courting EA, courting other publishers like Ubisoft is supposed to be joining in at some point as well. It's like I just personally am very baffled by this article, as I'm sure Xbox themselves was, and no wonder there was a ratio. Shock.
Well,
oh, no, go ahead, MLD.
I just want to add, like, I mean, if their objective was to get like what clickbait, like traffic, I mean, hey, I guess they succeeded, but they're supposed to be better than that. I mean, they used to be a much more universally respected outlet. For them to be reduced to this low level of like clickbaity stuff just to get clicks for ad revenue or whatever, they can do.
That's all it was.
Much better than that. At least they used to be.
Was ad revenue. So
yeah.
The minute, like, have you ever? You could tell any website that is basically, excuse how I'm going to say this, but pretty much dry humping the ad revenue train to death, is the minute you log on to the website, whether it's on your computer or your phone, and you start having pop-up windows opening on your phone that you have to close out just to read the article. That just shows you how obsessed they are to ad revenue, that they would basically detrimentally hurt your experience on their website just to get a couple cents in change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
expect it better.
Yeah, it's yeah, I can't stand it when they do that, but you know, obviously, you know, that's what they do. They try and piss you off with these articles to get the engagement and so on, trying to get all the Xbox fans to go in. Don't like that policy, but what can you do? Can't change them. Let's see, Eric, buddy. I mean, I'm curious what you think. I'm sure you took a browse through Kotaku's article. Like, I don't know. What do you think of what they were saying? Is you know, is it like, do you agree with what MLD and Centurion are saying? Like, what are your thoughts here? Oh, and I think Shockley is not there at the moment. I'll move over to you, Crusader.
Oh, can you hear me?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead, Shock.
Oh, there you are,
okay.
Shock. Go ahead.
All right, I thought I'd I had muted myself somewhere else. No, I think from what was already pointed out, like, guess it was any different. Like whether or not like Starfield was coming out later this year, currently Game Pass, if you're subscribed to it, wasn't any different than it is now. So I think AG made it a good point on I forget what he's on now since he's not on with Matty Plays anymore on Last Stand Media. But he pointed out like, okay, well, if Starfield was still coming out like later this year and Red maybe like late, probably in the late summer probably or fall, if it was still coming, well, these next, possibly 6 months of not, I guess, having a first party game, are those just as much of a loss? So why would you keep subscribing to Game Pass if you're not, playing any of the other games that are there that have to be AAA? And there are some AAA games in there, just maybe not ones that were day one, but you still have like Guardians, you still have Scarlet Nexus. So there's some AAA games in there, the quality AAA games. But what was different about it? Sure, we're gonna have to wait maybe a few more months for like Starfield, but what for those people that were gonna like, oh, I'm gonna. And it was weird that everybody was. I get when people like say can collectively all say Game Pass is good, because that's a little bit different than it's like they're saying, okay, cool, that we like Game Pass, but then it's weird. But notice how that's not, we don't know when they subscribe to Game Pass, right? But then collectively, all of these people are like, yeah, I'm gonna unsubscribe to Game Pass too. Like, you all decided that, or did you just decide it because you saw somebody else post about it and get retweets and stuff like that? It was kind of weird. It's like, why would you announce it? And it is kind of weird that you're all doing it on the same day or weekend. That's kind of weird. You may have not all subscribed to Game Pass at the same initial time, but you're all, I don't know. But you were all going to stay subscribed for the next 6 months for no first party. What about the whole rest of this year? So, people dog on Xbox for not having games in the first part of the year. So you were fine with not having first party games for like almost a year since, Halo, and then all the way to Starfield, basically. So I don't know. It just seemed kind of weird, for a lot of the people that were saying, people are just like, I'm subscribing. I mean, we'll find out, or we won't in the near future, as far as Game Pass numbers, like for their subscribers. But there's still a ton of quality. You had Tunic in there. Tunic was a great game. If people were saying Death's Door is Game Year material last year, Tunic's right there with it, and I would say Tunic's above it. From what I've played from both of them, I'm definitely enjoying Tunic a lot more cool discovery, a lot more even charm to it. So, and it's right there. It's no slouch. It's not a easy pushover game. You can lower the difficulty, but it's like if you go in there in the default difficulty, it's a challenging game. So, I don't know. But Xbox, they do have to put keep quality tech coming. So hopefully they got something for us in the next couple weeks. I'm sure they're going to announce something coming to Game Pass later this year. Might be just they're really good at putting third-party games in there shortly after. So maybe we'll get something kind of like how we got Guardians and Scarlet Nexus shortly after they released. So as long as they can keep some of that content going, I think they're good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another thing too, Eric, because I mean, I constantly download games, but I don't play them immediately because, I mean, obviously not all games are going to like that you download, but at the same time, some of these games take time, right? So you're not going to get to like all these games in a couple of days, couple of weeks, or even a couple of months. So even if games like Starfield and Redfall are delayed, and I'll admit, that is that does suck, obviously, and I prefer to have them, sooner rather than later, but okay, I want them to be in the best condition that they are, so I don't mind the delay. It's just, at the same time, there's so much content there, and that eats up your time that, does it, again, in the grand scheme of things, does it really matter that those games are delayed? Probably not, right? So there's other things that can keep your your
If
time.
they hit for that first, if they don't and they delay again, but if both those games hit in the first half, like I don't like a few more months, okay. Plus, you're gonna have Deathloop, so a lot of people that didn't,
Yeah.
weren't able to get a PS5 because a lot of people still weren't able to when Deathloop dropped. That'll be most likely dropping in the Game Pass here in a few months. So, which people were saying was, it had high ratings, Game of the Year material from like what people nominated it for. So, I mean, you'll have some stuff that it's just gonna drop into Game Pass like Deathloop, and then hopefully shortly after that you're gonna have Redfall, Ghostwire Tokyo, and Starfield in the first half next year dropping in Game Pass potentially.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have some content, so like content, and if maybe we could possibly get one of these games from one of our Ukraine developers. Obviously not. I think Atomic Heart got pushed back to 2023, but hopefully Stalker 2 can hit December. Not likely, but unfortunately that was just a bad bet there. They invested in a lot of devs in the Ukraine. It just happened to be the worst, not the optimal time to rely on them. Not that it wasn't good to invest in, but maybe they were relying on like Stalker 2 to get them until like late summer, and then Redfall hopefully and Starfield come behind it, and then that didn't happen, and then those games didn't hit either with the war going on. So just a bad roll of the dice there.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, I'm looking forward to both games. Probably more so Atomic Heart, as I know a few people on the panel are.
Oh, what was the other one? Replaced. Another game in the year. Like that's like three games that look like pretty good from their trailers and releases. Replaced and Atomic Heart and Stalker 2, and then they're all probably getting pushed back to 2023 if we're lucky.
Yeah. No, it's too bad, but at the same time, hey, you know what? Give them time, and there's enough content there to keep you busy. Let's see, Crusader Pal. I mean, I'm curious about your commentary on this one. Like, what do you think of Kotaku's article and whatnot? Because others on the panel are saying that it's slanderous what they're doing, maybe kind of lazy in my opinion. What's your take?
So I want to just talk about the ratio for a second. The In Exile made me laugh hysterically because, for those who don't know, I have degrees in both computer science and mathematics, and they posted underneath the ratio, the Xbox Game Pass ratio, they had an actual picture of the golden ratio over the tweet. The mathematical term, the golden ratio, it's a geometric ratio, and I was dying. It's stupid math humor. Um, so I very much did appreciate the In Exile chiming in. That being said, I thought the article itself was stupid because not just because of the topic itself, but because of what they were actually trying to cover about what was being talked, which was blown way out of proportion by everyone. And that was everyone knows Gene Park? You've heard of him, Washington Post reporter. It was his tweet that started this whole thing, and he was talking about how he just decided he didn't really want to subscribe to Game Pass right now because there was nothing in it he necessarily wanted to play, and that he would be back as soon as there was stuff he wanted to play. And people ran crazy with him saying that. And that conversation does not even come close to actually correlating with Kotaku's headline, because everyone of the major I don't want to say influencers, because Tony Planko was another one. He's not an influencer, he's another reporter. MVG was another one. He is an influencer content creator. they all explicitly stated that as soon as there was content that they wanted in the service, that they would be right back to the service because it is such a good deal. It's just that right now there's nothing that they really wanted to play. And I mean, the whole reason that they were talking about it together was because Gene brought it up. Tony had canceled a few weeks ago, and he had talked about that. And I put out a thing, and I do believe that some of these people should be saying things like this because it, you know, I like it when people review games. I like it when people review the services. Like I like listening to reviews of like the new stuff that's come to Netflix, the new stuff that's come to uh all the services. And I think that's something that going forward, because we're having all the things like the PS Plus Extra Premium, Nintendo Switch Online, and the online expansion, which is awful. And Game Pass, that we should have more conversations about, is it worth it right now in this month. Um, that being said, I'm not canceling. I made my piece a few weeks ago about me saying I was disappointed with the non-replacement of the value proposition, but there's still well more than enough value to keep me subscribed. It's just I was disappointed they didn't replace the promised value. Um, and what Gene said, he was completely right to say. He said that right now there's not a whole lot I want to play. He wanted to save his money, and he'll be back exactly when there's more stuff to play. And I guarantee he'll be back this fall if that Gears of War collection drops, because he loves Gears of War. He was even talking about that in the thread, that like he canceled right after he finished his Gears of War playthrough. And it was so dumb that people ran left and right with this and made it a whole trend. It was blown way out of proportions. And Kotaku sent it over the moon, and I think Xbox kind of shut it down by being like, look, we do have a lot of great stuff. And they do. They do have a lot of good stuff. They've been lacking in like day one launches this year, maybe a little bit compared to last year, but it hasn't been too bad. They do need to get the solid first party down so that this conversation just ends forever. But there's way more than enough reason to be subscribed right now, especially for people who haven't been in the service before. If you have been in the service before, you've been in there since day one, maybe it's a little rough on you right now, but I mean, you're still getting all of the sales discounts from Gold. You're still getting access to all of these games you can play with your friends. There's still stuff coming every day. I think next month we definitely have at least 2 Ubisoft games coming, right? I know
Yeah.
Origins is supposed to come in early June in the first drop. And that's supposed to be getting its 60 FPS update in that drop. That's gonna be awesome for a lot of people.
And keep in mind too, that's also not including like the Game Pass for PC as well, right? If you're an Ultimate member, so there's a ton of content there.
Yeah.
It's just a matter if you want to go down that route.
So I'm still at the point where I'm never gonna unsub. I don't need. I get well more than enough value out of it. Maybe there's a couple months where I don't need it this month just because I'm playing so many things elsewhere, and I'm not on my Xbox necessarily, but I even haven't had that this year yet. Destiny hasn't been all consuming at any point this year yet. So yeah, this whole situation was dumb. It was not quite as dumb as the indie developer who wasn't porting the DLC dumb, but it was dumb.
Yeah, it's yeah, that one was pretty weird too, but just this whole situation that came out of this article, just very, very weird altogether. And in a way, I'm kind of glad that Xbox social media was having fun with this, as well as a few studios, as someone mentioned, in Exile. I was happy to see them get in on that, as well as Brian Fargo. It was kind of fun that way. But I really wish that some of these gaming news outlets, took things a little more professionally rather than clickbaity. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, that's the state of the industry at the moment, or at least journalism. But guys in the chat, let me know what you think about this, because it's very weird altogether. Okay, I think we'll move on over to some other things, to our last topic actually for the night. And it's a combination of a few things, actually. There are reports of Xbox turning down a few rather big deals, some from, a few years ago, some more recent. First up, in an excerpt from a history of video games book, the head of Marvel Games explained how the company, they cut ties with Activision. They'd obviously worked on a whole bunch of Marvel games with them, and they were just looking for other publishers for their titles, other developers. And they had presented Microsoft with an exclusivity deal, but apparently they declined. They declined the offer, which is interesting. GeneralMLD, Bud, I'll head to you here first. Obviously, a few years have passed since this had happened, and Marvel made a deal with Sony. Did Microsoft make a mistake on this one, or is it just or is it just wiser for them to focus on their own IP? What's your thoughts on this?
Oh yeah, like this was definitely interesting once Twitter became aware of this. First with the Marvel and then with KOTOR, but I guess I'll talk to each one one at a time here. First with Marvel, I think someone correct me on the date. I think this was 2017 or somewhere around there before their 2018 buyouts. I think is when this deal was presented to them. I think that's how I remember reading it.
Marvel was earlier. Marvel was 2014 or 15.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. At this time, I mean, on the surface, the PlayStation guys, they jump on this saying, it was they missed a golden opportunity, or they laugh about stuff. But when you think about it, at the time, Xbox only had 5 developers: Turn 10, 343, Mojang, Coalition, and Rare. Like when you think about it, who are they going to pick to make it? Like they all had their own things going on at the time. Maybe the Coalition, but they're making Gears 4 and eventually Gears 5. Like everyone at the time, I don't see their studios at the time being a fit for that kind of game. As nice as it would have been, I think Xbox just was not in a place at the time, especially 2014, 2015. That's when their budget was like not their budget got gutted. Like Xbox did not have the financial backing of Microsoft at the time, not even close. It wasn't until 2017, 2018 when their buyouts and Game Pass really started to happen, and that's when the whole turnaround really started. But at that time, when you really think about it, it just makes sense. Xbox was just not in a position to do that with Marvel. They just didn't have the studios, didn't have the free time to do that. So it is what it is. Sony did have the studio to do that, and that happened to be Insomniac. So good for them. They capitalized on that. But going forward, that shouldn't really be an issue because Xbox now has more studios than they know what to do with. But now going into KOTOR, I heard that Xbox was also approached about that, and that was also declined. That I'm a little more that's a little more of a head scratcher, because if they I feel like that would be a slam dunk for their publishing arm. Xbox, the original Xbox had KOTOR. The people associate the original Xbox with the original Knights of the Old Republic. It just makes sense. I feel like with all the money that they're investing nowadays, what's to stop one more publishing deal if they could have had it? So I honestly don't know. We don't know what goes behind closed doors. Obviously, Xbox has a lot going on their plate in terms of the acquisitions. Bethesda, Activision Blizzard, all the individual studios that they've been buying and building up over the years. Maybe they are, maybe they're at their limit with all their investments. Maybe their publishing arm they got their own deals going on that we don't know about. We might see more of their publishing deals and efforts this June. So, maybe it's just a matter of that. I feel like KOTOR was a golden opportunity that they unfortunately missed. But it is what it is. But the Marvel one, I completely understand why. They just weren't ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am kind of scratching my head at the KOTOR thing, because that was one of the more beloved exclusive titles on the original Xbox console. But like you said, we don't know what the details would have been for this deal and so on. So, but it would have been nice to have an exclusive Star Wars title. But oh well. Let's see here. Centurion, I mean, I'm pretty sure you want to dive right into this. What's your thoughts on this? Is it a mistake that Xbox turned down these deals, or are they okay just focusing on their own IP? Like, what are your thoughts?
I'm not gonna like label it a mistake because we let's start with Marvel, just like GeneralMLD did. Um, at the time, Microsoft was not in a place to want to do a deal like that. Both financially, internally as a company, they were a little like up and down. They were restructuring themselves. Phil Spencer had just come in the hot seat. Just because you get in the hot seat and you're the guy in charge doesn't mean there's a checkbook on the desk waiting for you. And also, dude, like they had a lot of Phil Spencer and a lot of the developers, the teams in charge over there had a lot of bad sour tastes in their mouth from companies like Platinum Games go running amok with their money and developing games for other consoles. And obviously Lionhead Studios. Now Lionhead Studios has come out. That's a mistake that Xbox will come out and admit to. And we have seen that Microsoft learns from their mistakes. So that's why is it a mistake that they let Marvel slip by? I'm not going to say that because we don't know exactly what was going on then, and they did what was best for them at that time. So whatever helps you, you can't really call it a mistake, even though it was maybe a missed opportunity, but not a mistake. But at the same time, maybe it's made Xbox a little bit better as a brand for not having Marvel there. I feel that Sony has got a lot of passes. They've also received a lot of help from companies like Disney when it comes to marketing these games. So it, in my opinion, makes Xbox have to be just that much more, what's the word I'm looking for? Inventive in how they're going to make up for that. And we have seen that Microsoft can be very inventive when it comes to competing. We saw that with Game Pass and other strategies that have completely left fielded the gaming industry and changed it by adhering to some of these business practices. When it comes to KOTOR, now in the conversations I have with the people I like to talk to this stuff about, we don't instantly just go and gravitate. And I'm not saying to anybody, I'm just saying I don't instantly get on that, oh my God, this is bad, the glass is half empty kind of thing. We rather just kind of hatch it out, talk about it, and really brainstorm. Why would you pass up on KOTOR? Well, yes, it is a game that helped establish the original Xbox on the market. It was exclusive, yes. In my opinion, it was some of BioWare's finest work when it came to being able to do stuff for the Star Wars franchise. But who's to say in this marketing deal that, hey, you guys get KOTOR, something you've already had, something that you've done in the past, and you get KOTOR, but on our next future project that is unnamed, you might end up having to give up marketing rights to A, B, or C company. And, Microsoft has always been a company that really prides itself on trying to embrace the future rather than they always, backwards compatibility. They always want to bring forward past purchases. But like I've said in the past, Game Pass and Microsoft feel like the place to play gaming now where PlayStation's creating the gaming then. And I really feel that maybe Microsoft didn't want to shoehorn themselves into a situation where they could potentially not have marketing rights on a future game or having to allow another company have those rights or whatever could have been created by having KOTOR as part of their portfolio. And so they probably passed on that, and we might see the fruits of that. We just saw Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Is that what it's called?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I know I tweeted it out. I'm excited to see that the Jedi, Star Wars Jedi franchise is definitely going to come back. Respawn has made another game. I'm excited for this, and I still have not seen a PlayStation or an Xbox logo appear before any of these trailers. So I'm curious on, are we going to see this at June 12th? Stage show? Are we going to see Respawn Gaming come out with EA, and we're going to get a nice, good look at Star Wars Jedi Survivor? We also have Quantic Dream's new game, Star Wars Eclipse.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So another one that, Xbox could be totally wanting to check out. There's a number of reasons why you can at least make an argument that they would want to pass on KOTOR. Is it tragic? Yes. Am I trying to white knight or defend Microsoft? No. I'm just trying to give a logical devil's advocate reason that there could possibly be a much brighter light at the end of the tunnel for passing on KOTOR for potentially something that Microsoft was much more interested in.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think you put it well too about the whole missed opportunities thing, because I mean, we really, in hindsight, I mean, we know how things have went. Spider-Man went on to sell like over 20 million copies, and I don't think that's even including the Miles Morales spin-off. Plus, they have a couple of other.
Can I interject on that just real quick?
Yeah.
In my opinion, before Robert Downey Jr. got in that metal suit and played Spider-Man, and they started integrating or kind of weaving in Spider-Man into the Avengers universe, that's when Spider-Man became relevant again for me. And I say again, I grew up as a little kid. I love Spider-Man. Everybody wanted to be him. But after the Tobey Maguires and the other reboots that were done under prediction, I was just Spider-Man out by the time that Microsoft was offered this deal. And if you really want me to be truthful, I probably would have not been up in arms if Microsoft came out and said, hey, we're doing this exclusive Spider-Man game. I would have been like, that's wonderful. I feel that now if they did something like that, it would have a lot more weight to me, because I feel that at least Spider-Man now as a franchise is a much better place than it was back during the time when this offer was made, at least in my mind.
Mm-hmm. And that's fair. And then you also look at the time period too, right, Centurion? Because, I mean, in 2014, 2015, what happened? Well, Microsoft bought Mojang. They bought Minecraft, right, for $2.3 billion, something crazy like that. And they made that money back within a couple of months. So, I mean, they were investing in titles. It's just, they were being a little more strategic, I would argue. But I mean, there's different ways to view this, and again, in hindsight, we can look at things just at the time you don't know. And I think you bring up a good point too about the Marvel films in relation to the game, because who knows, maybe if they didn't introduce or reintroduce Spider-Man into their cinematic universe, maybe things could have turned out differently. Maybe there wouldn't have been as much hype and so on, right? So
you want me to be in my opinion, what has really saved the Spider-Man franchise for me is Tom Holland. That's why every time I read an article about Disney or whoever wanting to replace Tom Holland, I'm like, you're stupid. Like, Tom Holland is an amazing actor. We've seen him play Drake in the Uncharted movies. Sony has a real gem underneath their umbrella with Tom Holland, and I just really feel he fits the role of Peter Parker quite well.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I thought he was miscast as Drake, but as Peter Parker, I mean, yeah,
as Peter Parker, yes, I know they're doubling down on him. It's good to see, though, he's getting roles that at least have recognition to them, and he's not just doing these offshoot roles. Like, I mean, the actors that, and I'm not trying to diss them, but the actors that played Spider-Man back there before at least Sony's kind of like creation of what is now the Marvel universe, I feel a lot of the actors that played Spider-Man were just kind of plucked from like not being very popular, trying to be made popular, and they went right back to being unpopular actors after they got out of the Spider-Man role.
I mean, I remember that first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie back when I was in high school, and the amount of people wanting to go see that movie, it was just like there was a flood of people at the theater. It was insane.
Well, that was because that was the first time we saw Spider-Man done with the invention of special CG effects. Back then, it was just very horrible camera angles of people climbing sideways on a building and wires. That was what really made that Tobey Maguire movie really pop out, was the fact for the first time we were going to see Spider-Man actually able to soar through the buildings like he was talked about in the comic books. But for me, what really burned me out on Tobey Maguire is when we got to the third movie and we're casting the kid from that 70s show as Venom.
Oh yeah. What's his name? Yeah, Topher Grace. Topher Grace.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm just saying when you think of Eddie Brock and Venom, that's not him.
Yeah, no, and I'll agree with you. There was a miscast there, but I don't know, man. Just something about those Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans. I don't know. I'm kind of nostalgic for them in a lot of ways. Maybe not the third one, but the first and second ones, man. I thought they did a lot of good justice to the
first and
IP.
second ones were really good, and dude, I think that might be on part just because of James Franco and what's his name who played the Green Goblin.
Oh, Willem Dafoe.
William Dafoe. Oh man. That dude, I don't care what role that dude plays in, like he's awesome, and him playing the Green Goblin was so awesome.
Yeah. Crusader, buddy, I mean, I'm curious on your thoughts about the whole Xbox turning down like a few of these IP. I mean, again, like some of these stories, they go back a couple of years, maybe one's more recent, but again, you're all about the leaks and the commentary and so on, the behind the scenes. Like, please give me your take on this.
The Marvel one is not a leak or a rumor. That came out from someone who actually is within the scene. It was in a book, I believe, written.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so that one's not... That one is definitive it happened. And I think everyone stated exactly why it happened. They didn't have the studios. Now, I would like to point out that when Insomniac released the first Spider-Man, they were not owned by Sony at the time. They were still an independent studio. But even if you look at Microsoft's close partner studios, they really only had a few, and the only one who was really qualified to make a game that is on the level of the Spider-Man game that Insomniac made was Remedy. And Remedy was deep in development for the Quantum Break game that came out. Well, it was 2016, right? That came out?
Quantum Break was 16, yeah, 16.
Yeah. So they didn't really have anyone in first party or second party, and they did have 6 studios, not 5, because Lion's Head was still in existence at that point. So there was really no one that they could call upon at the time to do something that was outside of their own IPs. So, I'm not mad about that one at all. Like, at all. They made the right choice for the time. If they had made that same choice today with all the studios they own, I think I'd be a little bit more confused, unless they legitimately couldn't find a first or third party studio to make it with them. They're in such a different place today than they were then. Because, at the end of the day, I don't want external IPs thrust upon studios within their studio structure if they don't want to make them. And that includes IPs that they've holistically owned. Like, if everyone says they want Obsidian to make a Fallout game, another one. But if Obsidian doesn't want to make a Fallout game, I don't want them to make a Fallout game. Does that make sense? I want these studios to make what they want to make. Now, if a studio says, "Well, hot damn, I want to make a Star Wars game," you get us a Star Wars IP and we want to make a Star Wars game, then I'm all for that. Make it, right? Now, when it comes to this, the passing on KOTOR, that itself is a leak. That was not. Well, I shouldn't say leak. That was a rumor. We don't have any official documentation that says it. It was Mr. Matty Plays said that he had heard that they had also passed on KOTOR, and I trust him more in this area because he is like the king of RPGs. He's known to have sources in the past. So there's credibility behind what he says. And he said that he heard that Microsoft skipped on KOTOR. And he said everyone's hearing that they skipped on it, and that's all they're hearing. They're not hearing the why that Maddie said it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that they had skipped it because of the developer, because it wasn't that Microsoft was going to get this IP and take it to an external developer. It was that this IP was at Aspyr, and they were looking for someone to publish Aspyr, and that Microsoft skipped because it was Aspyr, because Aspyr has never made a holistically original piece of content. They've only done remaster and port work, right? And this is not a remaster or port. This is a holistic remake. They are making fresh assets from scratch. We don't even know if it's going to be in the same type of play style. We just know it's going to be essentially the same. Well, we don't even know if it's going to be the same story. You know, it could be like the Final Fantasy VII remake, where it is different.
I've heard a rumor that they've actually altered the play style, altered the fighting gameplay.
I would assume they did. I'm assuming it's going to be similar to Final Fantasy VII versus the original, and that's fine. But this is a fresh company doing it, and from what I've heard is that they didn't have faith in Aspyr's team to make it, and they didn't want that associated with their brand. Now, that could come back to bite them, because, I mean, what better for Game Pass than a big external IP that you don't even have to have one of your own studios make? Now, do I think they made the right choice or not? I can't tell you at this exact moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to come down to when that game comes out. We'll have to see how it is. If it comes out and Aspyr did a good job, I'm going to say that Microsoft made a mistake. If it comes out and it's not good, then Microsoft, you know, they made the right call. I'm on the fence 60-40 as to whether it'll be good or bad. And I say 60-40, it's 60, it's not going to be great. 40, it will be great. And the reason I lean more towards it's not going to be is I believe it's the lead writer was the lead writer for Andromeda.
Yes.
And Andromeda's not a bad game. In fact, I would dare to say it's a good game, but it was a very disappointing entry in the Mass Effect franchise, because Mass Effect games aren't good games. They're excellent games. And it played okay. It had an okay story. It had some not so great crew members, more than, you know, every Mass Effect game has like one or two crew members that are underdeveloped, but most of them were underdeveloped, and some of them were downright bad, like Liam. And I'm a little bit worried that, you know, this isn't going to be as good as everyone hopes it's going to be, that it's going to live up to that legacy. And a lot of that comes down to, we don't know how much the Disney themselves are going to want changed about the original story to fit the new timeline. Because I guarantee that this game is going to be changed at least somewhat in order to fit a new timeline, so that they can center even more content around the Old Republic era.
Can I also give you another thing to think about?
Yeah.
In the past, I've heard other people talk about the KOTOR remake, and it comes down to also the original KOTOR was a very dark game. There was some very dark tones. So yes, the Jedi are these really cool good guys, but the Sith are very influential in this game, and this is where you get a lot of, at least in the original game, the Sith background and how Sith really work. The Sith don't have this idea of, you know, like in the Jedi where you raise to the rank of master. In the Sith world, you kill your master to get that rank. It's a very brutal, bloody world to be a Sith Lord, and it's very well embraced, at least in the original KOTOR. Also, on Kashyyyk with the Wookiees, you actually get to see them enslaved, and very horrible things happening to the Wookiees in the original game, because that's just the way it was. We saw them take over Kashyyyk in the movies, so that, yeah, they were very brutal. And that's some of those tones that have been brought up in past conversations and past podcasts that I've listened to, that they're really worried that Disney is going to like try to mow over and try to basically get rid of, because Disney wants to try to make the Star Wars a more PG style franchise, and they might potentially soften the Sith Lords.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot, and so I have these general concerns about how the remake's going to go, and I think Microsoft had them too. Now, will it come back to bite them that they didn't take the risk? That's the question of the hour, and we won't know that for forever.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to be fair, I mean, we're talking about, again, a publisher that bought, I mean, they're in the process of acquiring one of the largest ones, Activision Blizzard. They're going to be getting multiple studios and IP under their belt, along with obviously the Bethesda ZeniMax purchase, and they've acquired other studios. They got boatloads of IP. Like, personally, I'm not worried about IP, like, in general. Like, we know that they have a fountain of, again, games coming, right? I'm not worried about that. Would it be nice to have maybe, let's say, I don't know, a Punisher game, a Captain America game, or some kind of a Star Wars fighter game and so on? Yeah, I mean, I would totally be down with that. But, you know, I mean, maybe it's good that they just focus on their own content, or, you know, their own IP, you know, right? Like, obviously,
yeah.
like
I agree.
yeah, exactly, right? I mean, I think Sony's doing some good stuff. You know, getting involved with, I mean, you know, Spider-Man's worked out for them. They have Wolverine in the pipeline and Spider-Man 2. You know, obviously, and they're excited to have those IP, and good for them. But, you know, sometimes, you know, it depends on the team that makes the game, and, you know, how much passion they have behind that. Maybe Xbox was like, you know, we're not, you know, we don't want to, you know, touch that, and so on. And, you know, we want to focus on games that, you know, we just bought, like, again, Starfield, Redfall, and other projects that they're excited about. So, do they necessarily need these titles? No, but I mean, I would argue at the same time it would be nice if they had maybe one of these two, you know, big, you know, Star Wars is a pretty significant IP, right? Still to this day. But
Yeah, I would say I would like them to have a superhero game. And when I say I'd like them to have a superhero game, I don't mean that they need to have a superhero that is licensed. I'd like to see them bring back like Prototype
yes,
when
yes.
when that acquisition goes through. Just, like they need something in that space, if that makes sense. It doesn't need to be Batman. It doesn't need to be Spider-Man.
No.
It just needs to, you know, they need something to fill that kind of void. And it, Game Pass kind of doubles that, you know. At least they have the Arkham game. At least one of the Arkham games is still on Game Pass, right? I think so. I think the newest one is. I will check while I'm speaking. You know, and they have some other big like external IPs on Game Pass. I know the Shadow of War game, like the Mordor games, the Lord of the Rings games. At least one of those was on there as well at one point. So like, you know, they can still get these things, and like they have a bunch of Star Wars games on Game Pass. You know, they have Fallen Order, and Fallen Order will come to Game Pass a year after it's out because EA Play.
Right.
You know, so it's not like we're lacking Star Wars content or stuff like that in Xbox Game Pass right now. It would be cool if they would go back and license a bunch of the old like 360 and original Xbox Star Wars games. Like it cannot be that expensive to license like the original Battlefront 1 and 2 and get them in Game Pass, right? That would be cool to have, you know. There's plenty of ways to get these IPs into Game Pass without having to have them self-published. I think it just stings the most in this particular case because KOTOR was a big part of the original Xbox. Maybe not as big as Halo was per se, but I mean KOTOR and Morrowind were like the huge RPGs of the 360, and that's why Xbox was originally known as like a Western RPG box. And we're getting back to that kind of thought process with the Series X being the Western RPG box to have, because look at the developers who are going to be putting Western RPGs on it, you know?
Well, yeah, it's pretty amazing. They're going to be the big Western RPG box with The Outer Worlds, Fable, Fallout,
called
Elder
Scrolls.
Scrolls,
um
uh,
Starfield,
yeah, like
um,
amazing.
and then whatever In Exile makes, Project Cobalt.
Yeah, Project Cobalt, or even just Wasteland itself too. Like, damn.
Yeah, Wasteland, Bard's Tale. Bard's Tale is pretty good if people haven't played it. Pillars
Yeah.
of Eternity, which is the same IP that Avowed is. They're different genres, so like they're different sub IPs, but they're the same world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's nuts. And it is weird in that case that they passed it up too, because you'd think they kind of want to monopolize, and I use that word not in the illegal term, but in the just that they would want to secure even bad Western RPGs just so that they have them. And it's weird there too. Like I said, this story might not even be true. You know,
That's correct. Yeah.
or they might have been outbid, and that might be the actual case as to why they quote passed. You know, we when you don't have the firsthand source or read documents, it's hard to say. And Microsoft up until recently didn't like licensed content. I still think they don't like licensed content.
Yeah, it looks like they got different priorities than
They-
PlayStation.
They do easy licensed content, and licensed content that makes so much sense that maybe it's not on its own. Like they did for Flight Sim, they just did the Top Gun
Maverick.
DLC. That makes so much sense. You know, it's just inside our particular game, we're making reference to a very popular franchise.
Well, even the Pirates thing
And
too.
Pirates, that was the other one. Yeah, that was their big step back into licensed content.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said
Pirates.
PlayStation is always geared and aiming towards that silver screen connection for a lot of their brand and a lot of the IPs that they deal with and own. And I could see PlayStation wanting to throw more money at wanting to have that game than Microsoft would want to, just because that is Sony's MO, and that having games that can be connected with movies and television is their bread and butter.
Well, and that makes sense. Look at what Sony is. Sony Pictures.
Well, yeah, they're a production company. I've always said,
Yeah.
for me, Xbox represents gaming, Sony represents entertainment. And the reason why I make that difference is because I'm into wrestling. And when you listen to Vince McMahon talk about the days when he versed Ted Turner during WCW, Ted Turner referred to it as the wrestling business. And he was like, I'm not in the wrestling business. I'm in the entertainment business. And there's a difference.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And you can kind of tell from the games that they make. Sony's excellent cinematic games are just that. They're excellent cinematic games. They all easily translate. Well, most of them, I'll say, easily translate. I don't know how Twisted Metal's going to translate into media. They're doing that, evidently. But, like, you look at the rest of them, and they all translate into that space easily. And that's not a bad thing. It's just how they are. And you look at Microsoft's, and a lot of Microsoft's games won't necessarily. So a lot of them will, like Halo should, didn't, should.
Yes.
But they do they do the niche stuff too, like Age of Empires. Things,
Age of
that Sony
Empires,
won't do.
Forza.
Yeah.
And you know, like, I don't think, like, Ori's not going to translate into cinema. I mean, Ori's, like, it kind of is, but it's not going to, you know, you're not going to make a cartoon out of that. It's just how it, you know. And I think that's exactly the right way to think about it, that Sony probably did outbid them here. And that's just the way of things, you know. I'm sure Microsoft, well, I can't say they outbid them, but Microsoft used its weight to get Activision Blizzard. How mad can you be?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Call of Duty's gonna be on Game Pass. I was thinking about that the other day. Think about how many there's like only 4 major FPS franchises that are multi-platform that are not gonna be on Game Pass day one. And that's wild. It's like Borderlands, Crysis, and 2 others that I can't think off the top of my head. I had them listed out. And all the other major ones are either going to be on Game Pass day one or Game Pass within a year, because they've got the big 3, Halo, Battlefield, and Call of Duty, on lock right now.
Yeah, that's going to be insane when that deal finally goes through.
It's nuts. Like,
It's just a matter of waiting out that contract period, and whenever that's supposed to end with PlayStation.
They have 3 titles left.
Mhm.
They have 2 of them will be this year. We don't know if there's a game coming out next year.
Well, they said no. They said it was delayed into 2024.
Did they say it was delayed into 2024? Did it
Yeah.
officially?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's the potential that that game, even the 2024 game, might not be on day one Game Pass. And I know no one wants to hear that. That's just the way things are.
Even the previous backlog of Call of Duty games beyond Game Pass, even that, like that itself is just fine.
Yeah. I mean, how many of them are there? I mean, Lord, I haven't
least
played any of
20.
them
At
since
least
Advanced
20.
Warfare.
Well,
Yeah.
there's like even like on the original Xbox and PS2, like there was the original Call of Duty, Call of Duty 2, Call of Duty 3, and quite a few spin-offs too, like Big Red 1 and so on.
Right.
So
And the remasters, like when they remastered Modern Warfare 1, I think
Yeah.
that like those ones too.
Now I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that the original Call of Duty is not playable on modern Xboxes.
Yeah, as far as I know, it
My
was
knowledge,
original
it's the
Xbox.
only one.
I never seen it on the Xbox store. The earliest I've seen is Call of Duty 2, which was
Yeah.
a launch 360 title. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
there's so many. Like, I haven't played any of them since Advanced Warfare. I'm gonna go through and play all those campaigns.
Oh, same here, back to back.
Like, you know, this it's yeah, it is what it is. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, say what you will, guys. I mean, you know, maybe certain titles there in the franchise may not tickle your fancy, but I mean, Call of Duty, I mean, I guess they kind of have something for everybody at this point, so I don't know, like it's kind of hard to not be impressed by, again, the amount of content like just campaign-wise alone that they'd have. So, I don't know. Just interesting. Very interesting. But yeah, guys, these deals overall, I mean, again, we don't know. Like, I mean, okay, one obviously was talked about openly, it was confirmed, and so on as far as the Marvel stuff goes. But KOTOR, yeah, I mean, you know, we're going off of Maddie's sources, but you know, it does seem to have some credibility attached to it, and you know, that's where I'm leaning, anyways. We don't know the specifics, obviously, but I think it's safe to assume that Xbox want to focus on their own IP, and in a way, who can blame them? Who can blame them? But hey, an aggressive Xbox is a good thing in any case, and good for the industry as a whole. But okay, guys, I think on that we'll end off on that note. And hey, good show tonight across the board from all these fine gentlemen on the panel. Tonight we covered some possible console refresh leaks, Xbox hitting back against Kotaku, and Xbox seemingly turning away from you know, some big third-party IP. Also, what would the show be without our viewers? Thanks for stopping by, everyone. And if you enjoyed tonight's show, then consider dropping a like, sharing this out across social media, and subbing to the channel. Now, without further delay, let's get to the outros now. Shockley had to leave early, but hey, he did a fantastic job. You can follow him on Twitter at ShockNero. Now, who do we got here? Crusader Buddy. I really enjoyed your commentary tonight. Some great thoughts from you. Where can these fine folks follow you at?
Yeah, people can follow me at Crusader3456 on Twitter and /Crusader3456 on Reddit. Follow me on Reddit specifically because I do all kinds of stuff on r/gaming leaks and rumors. And next Sunday, I will be updating my mega thread of Xbox, Bethesda, Activision, and Blizzard leaks, rumors, and confirmed projects. It's a giant list. I'm at 31,000 characters right now. It is going to be a wild time, and I'll have my thoughts in that post as well about what I think we'll see there. And then I'm sure we'll talk about that next week as well.
No doubt, no doubt. But yeah, guys, follow him on there. Check out his Reddit threads and so on. He does a lot of good work. Very detailed, to say the least. Moving on down the list, GeneralMLD, buddy. Fantastic show. Loved your opinions. Where can everybody follow you at?
Thank you, thank you. You can find me on Twitter at MLD Ghost. Gamertag on Xbox is GhostMLD. You can see me playing Sniper Elite or Elden Ring. But yeah, it was a great show, and looking forward to the next week. So see if Xbox gives us something nice to talk about.
Yeah, one can hope. One can hope. I mean, we're, what, 2 weeks away now from their big show with Bethesda? So,
Oh yeah, the reel's gonna really ramp up.
yeah. I mean, I'm kind of curious to see if we'll have some, show leaks, but, I mean, really, they've been keeping things kind of tight-lipped, from what I can tell, so... So hopefully there's no spoilers. And down the list here, Centurion Pal. Again, awesome show. Awesome. Where can everybody follow you?
Yes, absolutely awesome show. Thank you to everybody who joined us in the chat. Thank you, gentlemen, for an awesome conversation tonight. For those wanting to find me, please find me at Centurion1307 on YouTube, Xbox Live, and of course Twitter. You can find me here every Sunday night on the TXR Podcast with this amazing group of gentlemen. And you can also find me every Wednesday night on Gaming Beyond the Box with Wilmy Hood and his amazing cast over there. And yeah, man, this is a wrap, like, subscribe, everything, all that. And thanks for joining us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said it well there, Centurion. And as for myself, you all can find my content on YouTube at Invader Gaming. As well, check me out on Twitter at Invader_1986. Good stuff tonight, and excellent crowd. As usual, we look forward to catching you all here on the next one. Later, everyone. Have a good night.